Hello, beautiful people, and happy Mabon. There's a lot to celebrate coming up with the beginning of Libra season and with the equinox. But first, I have to say thank you to everyone who extended kind thoughts and healing energies to Johnny. Last week was the first time in the history of this podcast that I didn't do a show. Every week, for more than 2 years running, I have posted an episode. And it's been important to me to make sure that I do that. It's always been kind of a point of pride, and maybe ego. But I mean, I've recorded while I was sick, while we were out of town, when I had COVID twice. But last week I just was not in the right headspace. I just didn't have the energy to give to it. And the energy that I did have, I had to give to my boy. Johnny is a member of the family. He's my honorary co-host. He's always here when I record, laying at my feet, snoring or licking himself or chasing his tail or, whining when he knocks a ball under the table. But he's had some pretty significant health issues that we're still in the midst of, but for now, he's stable. He is gaining some weight back. He's getting back to his old routine. We're feeling good about it. So thank you. And I actually read some of your messages to him out loud. And, between his outstanding vet and the laying on of hands and the medication and just the well wishes that he received, he seems like he's turned a corner. So thank you for that and for your understanding. And now back to our regularly scheduled programming. We're picking up where we left off 2 weeks ago when we spoke about Earth Magic. We're still talking about elemental magic, but this week we're talking about air. Now, I'm a Libra, which is an air sign, and we're about to be in Libra season beginning this Saturday, so the time is definitely right to explore the element of air, which I know is not as sexy as fire or as mysterious as water. It's not even as exciting as Earth Magic, that deals with like health and money matters, so we love that. But Air Magic is not without its many and varied uses. Air Magic is an excellent choice for spell work related to communication in any form, which, is probably the most obvious application, I would think. And again, communication is not exciting or fun, usually, but it's an enormous part of a lot of the work that we do. And we will get into why that is, but even on its own, communication is just important, and I'm not just harping on this because I'm an air sign. That's probably part of it, but, it is what it is. Like, let me tell you, I be talking. I have a podcast, for Christ's sake. I love communication, and I can't stand miscommunication. I simply will not abide it. In fact, it's my least favorite trope in like books or movies or television. Like, if the main conflict in a story could be resolved with, a 30-minute uncomfortable conversation, just keep it. I'm not interested. Just keep that in mind if you've got any book recommendations for me. But I'm always going to talk it out. And I know, maybe that's not always a good thing, but here's the truth. If you and I are ever in the midst of a disagreement, we are going to hash that shit out. There's not going to be silent treatment. There's not going to be storming off or hanging up in the middle of a phone call. There is definitely not going to be any misunderstanding. We're going to talk it out until you are sick of the sound of my voice. And when it's all said and done, we are going to understand each other perfectly. Now, we may not agree. We still may not find common ground. And we may not even be friends anymore. But it won't because we don't understand each other. If we're not friends anymore, it's going to be because we understand each other perfectly. So, all that to say, communication matters. And it matters in magic, too. So, if we're doing a spell that will require us to use our voice, either in the spoken or the written word, Air Magic is where it's at. And for this reason, I love Air Magic for relationship work. I know that we typically think of fire magic for love and relationships because it's associated with, passion and sex, but we can't underestimate the power of air when we're trying to deepen a romantic relationship. Sex is a big part of that equation, yes, but communication, understanding, acceptance, harmony, these are even bigger factors in the long-term success of a relationship, and we might only be banging a few times a week. So we got to figure out how to get along the rest of the time. So Air Magick for strengthening a relationship, for helping to create a bridge of understanding. This is going to be very useful in a relationship, and not just sexual relationships or romantic relationships. Every relationship, any interpersonal relationship relies on that kind of understanding, that depth of communication. This is also going to be a big factor in spell work related to career or education, schooling. So if you've got an interview, if you've got to make a good impression at a work or a school function, if you're trying to land new clients, if you've got a presentation to give, all of that is Air Magick. This is going to be really helpful. It's going to support our efforts to express ourselves and to help us be understood by others. And if you have a court case coming up and you want to make sure that you make your case as clearly and concisely as you can, Air Magick is going to work doubly well in that instance because Air Magick is also associated with justice. This is also the ticket for work related to travel. Not work-related travel, but spell work that's related to travel. So if you're trying to plan a trip, or you've got designs on moving away from where you live, or you want to open yourself to, working at a new company, that's the kind of thing that Air Magick can really support. And the last thing that I want to include in a discussion about the applications of Air Magick is knowledge. The element of air is what we call when we're searching for truth. And so this will include divination, astral travel, divine truth, visions, enlightenment, all these really cool mystical applications that Air Magick is uniquely attuned to. So maybe it doesn't get all the attention that other elements get, but it's still pretty goddamn cool. And with that said, let's talk about how we can actually perform Earth Magic. Now, the first and most basic form of Air Magic that we probably all use, or at least are most familiar with, is going to be smoke cleansing. Anytime that we burn incense or, sage, Palo Santo, ethically sourced, of course, just any herbs that we burn to cleanse a space, we're performing Air Magic. And this is a really effective form of protective magic. It's cleansing, yes, but it's very, very protective. And this is a great way to cast a circle before beginning any kind of a ritual or a spell. And it's a great way to establish a perimeter, so to speak, before beginning any kind of divination. Now, I always use incense to cleanse my tarot decks before each reading. And I use the smoke to also cleanse my space before and after a reading, just to clear any lingering funk, any heaviness, any unwanted or uninvited entities that might feel like they want to hang around. Because I do open myself up not only to my own deities, my own entities, my own guides, but also the client that I'm speaking to. And so when we're doing that kind of work, when we're opening ourselves up as a channel, we have to understand that we're going to be inviting outside energies. And so cleansing is just a really good way to maintain that spiritual hygiene. And I really just wanted to make sure that I remembered to mention that. But beyond the simple act of, smoke cleansing, we can use Air Magic elements in our spell work to combine those aspects that we want to include in all of our work. So, for example, if I'm performing a spell to find a new job, I might think earth magic, obviously, right? Because this is going to be related to money. Yes, it is, but I might want to add air magic elements to make sure that I nail that interview. Or, if I'm working a love spell, I might think fire magic. Yes, but I'm going to add air magic elements, herbs, crystals to support my intention that this person that I might meet is going to be a good intellectual match for me. Or, if you're doing a spell to move to a new house or a new apartment, some air magic elements are going to support the traveling aspects of that work. So, there's just a lot of ways that we can incorporate air magic to all kinds of work that we do. If I'm doing ancestor work, you bet your sweet ass I'm going to include some ingredients with strong air magic associations in that work, because I'm going to want to encourage the communication between worlds. I'm going to want to make sure that the messages come in loud and clear. And I'm going to want to make sure that I receive the wisdom that my ancestors want to impart to me. And I can ensure all of that with air magic herbs and plants, crystals, gemstones, etc. So let's go right down the roster, and we're going to begin with stones and crystals with air magic correspondences. Now, this is not an exhaustive list. This is just going to, like, the more common ones that we're going to be able to find easily, inexpensively, and without a lot of muss and fuss. So quartz, sodalite, topaz, agate, desert rose, moldavite, which, yes, I know it's very trendy right now. Please make sure you've got a reputable source. But also blue tourmaline and celestite. Now, plants and trees are going to include apple, cedar, mistletoe, nutmeg, reed, sandalwood, frankincense, pine, walnut, and star anise. And again, this is not exhaustive. These are just the more common ones. Herbs are going to include thyme, yarrow, sage, clover, marjoram, and lavender. And you can include any of these items to any spell that you're already working for just about any purpose, and it will help to impart that air magic aspect. And it's important to remember, as we're going through all of these elemental magic episodes, very few of the spells that we work are strictly of one element. Most of the work that we do is going to include aspects of two or more elements, and that's a good thing. We are witches. We celebrate balance. We understand that there can be no light without dark, and no winter without summer, and no fire without water. So mixing and matching elements in our work is not the sign of sloppy witchcraft. It just demonstrates an understanding that we can draw from a lot of different areas to ensure that our work is as effective as it can be. And then the last bit of info that I want to impart before we close is the recipe for divination oil. And this is the same recipe that I use in the oil that I sell in my Etsy shop. And this is the oil that I use before I perform tarot readings. I anoint my third eye and my throat chakra before I begin a reading to help me receive messages and then to communicate them accurately and clearly. And the recipe for this oil is as follows. We begin, as always, with our carrier oil. And you can use any kind of carrier oil that you have access to. Olive oil, coconut oil, those are both really great. They get great results. But for this one, I like to use mineral oil. And the reason for this is simply because this is an oil that I actually anoint myself with an awful lot. And I just like a mineral oil on my skin. And I'll even add some vitamin E oil too when I have it on hand. So just a couple of ounces of mineral oil in a small pot over very low heat. And then to this, I will add mugwort to encourage visions and enhance the powers of divination, sandalwood to activate and awaken awareness, patchouli for divine knowledge, star anise for clairvoyance, and clove for psychic ability. Now, if you don't have all of these, just leave out the ones you don't have and include what you do have. You're just going to warm this mixture over low heat for like 20 minutes or so, and then turn off the flame and let it cool completely to room temperature. And just strain out the plant material and save the oil in a little bottle or jar and use it on yourself or add it to your spell work however you see fit. Anytime you have a working that you believe could use some zesty divination Air Magick, just give it a few drops of your oil. I also like to put a small piece of amethyst into every bottle with the oil. Amethyst is such a powerful stone for prophecy and divine knowledge. So I just like to keep some right inside the oil. Gives it a nice kick. And yes, this is divination oil. So, use it when you're performing divination of any kind, but also when you're meditating or attempting lucid dreaming or astral travel or ancestor work, or even, if you just are about to have an important discussion with someone, it's very helpful to open channels of communication with the universe and with our higher self. Anytime that we need to make sure that we are expressing ourselves the way that we want to, and that we are being heard the way that we hope to be heard. And with that, I will close this episode out. All this information, everything that we've spoken about today, you can find a written transcript on the website, middleagedwitch.com. And we're going to talk about fire magic next week. So we're definitely going to talk about sex and love and hate and passion and drive and all kinds of fun stuff. So please make sure to join me. Have a lovely Maybon, a beautiful autumn equinox, and a great weekend. My name is Eli Rowe, and this has been the Middle-Aged Witch Podcast.